It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by Agile Dad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. What are the top three things that most leaders get wrong about culture? It took me a little while to break this down into only three. I started out with a long list, but I think I've isolated it down to three that make sense. So you may have heard the quote before that culture eats strategy for breakfast. I think it's true. But if you think about it, I've never actually heard anyone try and complete that quote. I don't know that I've I've ever figured out why any leader would want strategy to eat anything, so to speak, let alone, or to be eaten by anything, let alone culture, right? So if you think about the idea behind the quote, what people are trying to say is that culture is paramount. The success or failure of an organization or a team depends heavily on the culture, the norms, behaviors, how employees communicate, how they collaborate. All those things are incredibly important. Most leaders agree that culture is just insanely important. Without culture, you got nothing. But that seems to be where the agreement stops. Many leaders, in fact, disagree over exactly what culture is, what it should look like, why it's important, or what a healthy organizational culture feels like. People just don't know. I hope that we can cover three assumptions that most leaders get wrong about culture. And hopefully, this will help you identify and zoom in and hone in on what culture really is. So, the first one is culture is unique. So, the first assumption that leaders get wrong about culture is that their culture is unique and not like anyone else's. Most leaders take time to describe how unique and special their culture is and proceed to tell you about how great the people are and how supportive of each other the teams are or how great the benefits are. I think you see where this is going. Most positive company cultures aren't actually all that unique. While toxic company cultures could be toxic for a variety of reasons, healthy company cultures actually have a lot in common. And that's good news. It's not bad news. The lack of uniqueness means that building a strong company culture requires just following a set pattern. It means leaders put a unique spin on a trusted model of healthy culture. Research suggests that the model looks like this. Most healthy cultures are marked by common understanding, psychological safety, and pro social purpose. They may use different terms or different stories to highlight how their company does it and how they apply these elements, but few organizations build thriving cultures without teams that understand and collaborate well through psychological safety toward the purpose of helping others. I guess what I'm trying to say in a nutshell here is don't try to reinvent a new company culture. Reinvent how you're applying the fundamentals to make your company culture work and stand out. The second assumption I want to talk about that leaders get wrong is that culture is all about artifacts. Ask what many leaders are doing to build culture, and they'll describe things that can easily be seen. They'll talk about the new foosball table or the quarterly celebrations of culture. They'll point out the mural of core values that are commissioned by a local graffiti artist to put in a lobby, right? But researchers on organizational culture are quick to point out that these artifacts just scratch the surface. Underneath what you can see lie a set of espoused values and shared basic assumptions. Those values and basic assumptions matter a lot more than when we're building or shaping a culture than any mural ever would, right? Consider the tech company that's most famous for their culture and often described using merely artifacts. I'll let you think about it for a second. Okay, I'm talking about Google. For most of its history, Google has been known for the cultural artifact of having free food readily available to any employee of the company and chef quality free food too. But just providing free food won't create a Google like company culture because underneath Google's policy is the idea that people from diverse departments connect and trade ideas around food. Uh, this is why you'd be hard pressed to find a table at Google with only one or two chairs. You'd be hard pressed to find a table at Google with one or two people sitting there. The food serves to implement the value of collaboration and a shared assumption that when diverse thinkers trade ideas, the result makes everyone better. So don't try to blindly just copy the artifacts. Well, they have a gym or they have this. If you're trying to build a culture, you need to understand the values that need to be emphasized and build artifacts that support those values. That's the key. The final and third assumption I want to talk about that leaders get wrong about culture is that it's all about the company. After all, it's most commonly referred to as company culture or organizational culture. And most culture experts and researchers examine culture at the organizational level. But if you think about most people's experience at work, it's shaped less by the culture of the entire organization, more by the culture of the team that they work on. We often hear the phrase, people don't quit bad companies, they quit bad bosses. In other words, the boss they have or the team they're on influences their feelings about the company much more than a statement of core values or benefits or perks. A better way to consider culture in an organization is a set of concentric circles. A company wide culture is like the outer ring, and depending on the size of the organization, different departments and functions serve as middle rings. With an individual team, the innermost ring of the culture, and sometimes even a direct small ring in the middle for an individual culture. This means that senior leaders not only shape the overall culture, but they must also train all leaders at all levels to pay attention to how their actions align or misalign with the culture. Don't just declare that you have elements of your company culture and hope that managers fall in line. Give managers the means to build strong and supportive team cultures of their own. Let them unlock the keys to what makes the team tick and let them run with it. Unless leaders get culture right, not a whole lot else goes right within the organization. While none of these assumptions will cause a culture to go toxic immediately, misunderstanding what a positive culture looks like and how it's built means leaving the eventual culture to chance. By contrast, if you get these elements of culture right, it means you're building an environment of common understanding, psychological safety. You want to have that purpose that helps everyone feel like what they're doing is the best work they could possibly do for the best company ever. And that's the message. So, the three things: don't say culture is unique. Culture is not unique. Good culture is shared. Don't say culture is about artifacts. It doesn't matter how many ping pong tables, foosball tables, or snow cone machines you buy, or whether you have a whole pantry full of food. The support of what that represents and what it's intended to do is what builds the culture. And finally, culture is more than just about the company. You need to understand that culture is something much bigger. That's going to do it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have a topic you want us to discover, learn more, or discuss, learn more at agiledad.com, where we'd love to discover what you want to talk about and bring it to light here in an episode. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.